So if you would like, I'll go ahead and kick it off. Cindy Bulla, are you on the Zoom call at this point, or are you joining us later? All right, so I don't see her readily on there. Cindy Bulla is our 2020 chairman of the board, and she'll be joining us as well as part of this. She'll do an introduction, as I will, and she's also going to moderate one of the panels that you'll have this afternoon. But good afternoon. My name is Travis Kessler. I'm the CEO for Texas Realtors. So thank you all for joining the Zoom call on the TRLP GA module today. I'm really pleased to see that you've got two programs going on, one with the Metrotex group. Thank you for joining us. And Sabor, for you and the other area boards that you all have as part of this program. Thank you for being on this this meeting and participating in TRLP. And it's really interesting of how this has progressed over the last several years. We've got two of the programs going on today. We normally have 8 consecutive TRLP programs going on across the state. And so we normally, for this module, would have about 200 of you here at the state capitol. And so this is a little different for us to do it on a virtual format, but this is such an important module called Law, Legislature, and the Texas Realtor. And so thank you for being part of the 2 programs that are being offered statewide for TRLP. I hope you've had a great experience with it. It's just a highlight for this organization to say that we have the Texas Realtors Leadership Program. The only thing that probably is the second best offering is to do this virtually. I have loved the energy and the synergy of this module when we are able to be across the street of the state capitol and do it in person. But this is the second best way of doing it virtually. I have the privilege as your CEO of being here in Austin at the Texas Realtors building. My office overlooks the state capitol, and so I kind of wish we were over at the state capitol just to have the feel, the desire, the passion, the care for what goes into this governmental affairs module for TRLP. But you're going to see what we do the best, and that's our advocacy and TREPAC efforts. And so thank you for participating with these 2 classes that we have today in doing this virtual module for TRLP. But today we're here to hear from the Texas Realtor staff, the volunteers, the leaders, to see what a difference that you make as a Texas Realtor and as a TRLP graduate in the advocacy arena that we have. And to give you a little bit of history, TRLP started about 15 years ago, and it really set the gold standard for leadership training. And I've had the privilege of being part of the TRLP program for the full 15 years that it's been operational. And personally, I see the class bonding. I see the personal and the professional growth that occurs, the desire that you have to serve both your community and the Realtor organization. But most of all, what I see coming out of TRLP is the reason for the greater good of why we exist as a Realtor organization. So thank you for taking that time, the effort, the commitment to be part of this, because this really is the strength of our Realtor organization and really why we are across the street from the state capitol and why we exist as a Realtor association. So I think I want to share with you just a couple of statistics that I think summarizes this very well. So after 15 years of having this stellar flagship program called Texas Realtors Leadership Program, I'm guessing that about half of our committees that we have, which is the strength of our organization, are TRLP graduates. Approximately 76% of our graduates are TREPAC investors. And I think about 21% are major investors within TREPAC. And as a graduate, you're twice as likely to respond to calls for action. And in the last general election, I think about 90% of our TRLP graduates voted. So today, you're going to hear from the best. You're going to hear from our panelists, our staff, our leadership, and learn about the importance of vote, act, and invest. And I just want to say, on behalf of Texas Realtors and our leadership team, how glad we are that you're part of this program. Your commitment to TRLP, because we want your continued and your future involvement within this Realtor organization. So I look forward to hearing the presentations today, but mostly I just want to say welcome on behalf of Texas Realtors and our leadership team at Texas Realtors for what you do for this organization. 130,000 members, and you're going to be part of a very prestigious and elite group called TRLP, and to be a graduate. So thank you for being part of that program. Welcome to today's activity. And Trey, I don't see Cindy on at this point, but we'll introduce her in just a bit. But I will turn it over to you with a very special welcome to all of our MetroTech, SABOR, and area boards to our GA module for TRLP.
Well, thank you, Travis. And like Travis said, I also want to welcome everyone here today. This is a great opportunity for us to talk about one of the biggest things that we do as an association is the advocacy side of what we do. And the governmental affairs side of the arena is a very complex group. It's a whole lot of different parts, and there's always a lot going on and there's a lot going into it. We like to say that if you're not at the table and involved in the governmental affairs arena, then you're probably on the menu somewhere. So we're glad that you're here today so that hopefully we can stay off the menu and we can be engaged in a strong way as realtors have always done in the past and as we will continue to do in the future. And as TRLP graduates, you guys are the rising stars and the ones that really come out in a big way, like Travis said, that support these programs to make sure the realtor voice is heard across the state. So I just want to say thank you for what you're doing. Being a part of TRLP is an awesome experience, and it'll take you a long way in your career. And we appreciate it from the Government Affairs Department because we get to see you all in the near future being more engaged as realtors across this great state. So I want to say thank you for your involvement. Thank you for what you're doing today. And I'll start with some housekeeping items real quickly. This is a CE course, so you will get continuing education. And as part of that, and since it is a Zoom meeting, you will have to have your camera on the whole time and be present in the camera because staff is monitoring you. And if you disappear, you might lose credit. So be careful about that. Make sure that you're in the video. And if you have any questions or anything while we're giving presentations, please use the comment tool to post your questions. Staff is monitoring that so that we can queue up our panelists that there's a question available. And if you can also raise your hand if you like to. If you use that in the participants window, you can use the raising the hand module. So please engage. We ask for your involvement, ask questions. This is a presentation for you and with you. So we hope that you engage in all the presentations. Also, the course materials were emailed to you separately from Jamie Sims. And so you should have received the conference or course booklet in an email. And I believe Jamie will attach that also as a link for you to download in the chat if you can't find your email. So we'll take care of any questions regarding that if you have any. And just to give you a quick overview, we're going to touch on all the governmental affairs areas. We're going to hit on public policy, where Julia Parenteau is going to be able to talk to you about that. I believe her connection's in better shape now where she can give her presentation about public policy and what that means. We also have issues mobilization where Julia is real involved in that as well. And that's where we talk about issues at the local level and also at the state level. Dahlia Brown will give a presentation on field reps and talk about what field reps do to support local associations and realtors in your area and how we can utilize that program to help facilitate government affairs and or other local association needs. Also, Brandon Alderetti is going to talk to us about political affairs, and that's where we talk about campaigns, and we're heavy into that arena right now, and how realtors support our realtor-supported candidates. And we'll also get into advocacy communications with Jamie Lee. She's our Director of Advocacy Communications and doing a great job working with us on various programs that I'm sure she'll be happy to talk to you about. And last but not least, I'd like to mention that Leslie Cantu is going to talk about TREPAC. And if you're in TRLP, you should have already heard about TREPAC. So that should not be a surprise to you. And then we'll wrap up the presentation with a number of our leaders and chairs from the different parts of the governmental affairs arena with our volunteer leaders, and we'll be set up for questions after that. So don't wait for your questions if you have them during the presentation, but if you have some later, we'd love to engage with you on that. And we'll go ahead and get started with the presentation. And I'll ask Julia Parento to come in to talk to us about public policy.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Trey. Hello, everyone. I am Julia Parento, your Director of Policy here at Texas REALTORS. I'm going to share my screen for you so you can get a look at this presentation we're doing. And while I am doing that, I noticed that the chair I'm sitting in is almost exactly the same color as my hair. So with these cool fancy backgrounds that we have, I seem to be confusing the green screen. So no judgment. If my hair looks weird, it's probably the chair behind me. All right. I am going to start first today by talking about our public policy programs. So hopefully everyone recognizes that picture there behind the screen, our beautiful Capitol Dome over at the Capitol building here across the way. Oh, my screen sharing is paused. Stand by. There we go. Oh.
There's appreciation for the dragon, though.
Thank you. That is, hold on, please. Let me just stop and restart. I have it on 2 monitors, so didn't care for that. All right, how's that? Can everyone see that now?
Yes, it just showed up, Julia.
Perfect. Sorry about that. I haven't done a screen share with 2 monitors before. I've always just done it on the one on the laptop. Okay, so Texas Legislature, here we go. There's our pretty Capitol Dome. Let's just get started. So when you're thinking about public policy and real estate issues, the first thing I want just to keep in mind throughout this whole discussion is that real estate issues are community issues, are Texas issues. One of my favorite things about working for y'all in the policy arena is that real estate encompasses so many policy matters. There's just thousands of things that our legislature, that Congress, that your city councils talk about that matter to real estate, to how you do your business, and to how your clients buy and sell property. So that is kind of the thing to keep in mind overall as we talk about policy. So Texas REALTORS engages in public policy development in order to make sure that Texas remains a great place to do business, to raise a family or maintain whatever household you prefer, and buy, sell, or lease real estate. Real estate is among the most heavily regulated industries, and the legislature, all of our levels of government, in fact, are always looking at policy, at expanding regulation that would have an impact on your business. So that's the second thing I want you to keep in mind as we talk about why realtors engage in public policy. So let me talk though just a little bit about our process in how we do it. So how do you distill down from the thousands and thousands of things that the legislature might be talking about that's important to real estate? Well, we start first with our public policy committees. Some of you are likely familiar with this process, having maybe volunteered on these committees in the past or even right now. But for those of you who are newer to it, we have 4 standing policy committees, and those are business issues, infrastructure, land use, and taxation. And our leadership team, the 5th bullet point there, our leadership team has the ability to appoint special committees as they deem necessary to address specific topics. But for the most part, everything that comes across our desks can be filtered into one of these 4 buckets. So we use our policy committees starting in the interim years, which is the beginning of the even years, so 2020, and our committees get together and sort of just explore a whole big list of items that they are hearing about that are potentially a problem or something we need to really be taking a closer look at for the legislature to consider in the future when they come back the next time. So we spend all of our even year when the legislature is not here, because they only meet every other year from January to May. So in that off year, the interim year, we start doing this in-depth committee exploration. And once our committees have gone through that process, which typically is the first 6 months. This year, it was the first 7 months of the year. We extended that into July after having to hit pause briefly during the initial stages of the pandemic. So once they get wrapped up with their initial investigation into all of the many issues that they're interested in, then they send recommendations on policy positions on up to our Public Policy Oversight Committee. And you're going to be hearing from the Public Policy Oversight Committee Chair, Kaki Libbert, a little bit later on today. The Policy Oversight Committee is made up of 3 appointed committee leaders that the leadership team appoints, a chair, a vice chair, and a liaison, as well as the chairs and vice chairs of each of those 4 policy committees. And so the Policy Oversight Committee's job is to take all of the recommendations that each of the issues committees has made, consider whether or not they're moving in the right direction and whether they should be moved on up to our executive board for final approval. Once that process is completed, then it goes on up to the executive board. And ultimately, those policy recommendations are turned into our legislative priorities for the upcoming legislature. This is the lovely cover booklet from last year's legislative priorities book. So, in which you can find always at texasrealestate.com/issues. So a note on the process this year, you'll hear probably more about the Breaking New Ground program that our leadership over the last few years has been working on. And part of Breaking New Ground has meant that our policy committees, despite the pandemic, are actually farther ahead in their process than they ever were before. And so the executive committee has already considered an initial slate of policy recommendations this year at their conference meeting 2 weeks ago, and has approved a preliminary slate of legislative priorities. Now, it is only September 16th, which means we have a long ways to go before January, and our executive board will meet again. And so it's possible we may add or change a few things on that, but they're moving forward, and that's going to position us to be really ready to go right when the legislature comes back in January. So speaking of which, there she is, the beautiful pink building. A fun trivia fact, if you are interested at all, the building is actually made out of granite that was quarried here in Central Texas, kind of up in Marble Falls. And if it ever comes up on a trivia quiz for you, the color is called Texas Sunset Red, despite the fact we call it the pink dome, you know, casually. Texas Sunset Red, write it down. So the legislature, our friends, as I said, they only meet every other year for up to 140 days. That's how the Constitution describes their meeting. And while this may be old news to many of you, I thought it was worth including a little slide with our friend from Schoolhouse Rock about how ideas become laws. So most of you are likely familiar with the overall concept of how bills are proposed and then ultimately lead to enacted legislation. But I found this graphic and I really liked it from our friends over at, interestingly, the Texas Council for Developmental Disabilities. I was Googling around trying to find who had the best infographic, and they had it on the flow chart of the legislature. So this is just the general scope of how things go. So a bill gets filed by a House member or a Senate member. In the Senate, the lieutenant governor really has all of the authority. He or she assigns bills to the committees as he sees fit, and they move through their committee process over there. On the House side, the Speaker does refer the bills as well, but then how it comes back around is different in the 2 chambers. So they'll each have their committee process that the bills go through, and of course a bill can't be passed into law until it has passed through both bodies. So It'll go through the committee process in one chamber, and then, you know, get amended, get kicked around, get debated on the floor, and then it'll go back and start over in the other chamber. In the Senate, again, the Lieutenant Governor is really the ultimate authority. So when it comes to a bill that has gone through its committee process and is coming back for its floor debate, the Lieutenant Governor has a lot of authority in how those bills come up on the floor, whereas in the House, there is actually a committee, a calendars committee that works on setting the bills for their presentation to the floor. Assuming that the bill comes out of both chambers in an agreed upon form, then it goes to the governor. The one chamber may change things that the other chamber had not done, in which case they'll need to come back together at the end and agree upon those changes. So they will appoint what's called a conference committee of House and Senate members to make sure that they get to a point where they agree upon the final changes. And if that happens, then it goes to the governor. Now, all of that to say, it's really important to remember when you're talking about the legislative process, whether that's here in Texas or in Congress, our process is designed to make it difficult to pass bills. So we have, last year in 2019, there were probably 7,500 bills that were filed. I think it was a little over 1,000. A little over 1,000, 1,500 maybe or so that actually passed. Texas Realtors monitored, just so you know, about 3,000 of those because, again, the real estate industry has such a wide scope of interest in the legislative process. But it's a relatively small number of bills that actually get passed, and that's by design, because, you know, you can file a bill on anything, any crazy idea that you want to. A legislator could file a bill, and you don't want it to be too simple for those ideas to get through. So the process is designed to make sure that bills are really agreed upon by the time they get to the governor's desk, and that a whole bunch of people have had an opportunity to chime in and say, you know what, we think this is a good idea, or here's how it can be changed, and ultimately get to a point of compromise where it can move forward. So how is Texas Realtors involved? Well, during the session, we have a lot of different ways to maintain our contact with our legislature. Our legislative management team is the government affairs staff's kind of go-to group during the legislative session. Legislative management team is made up of our leadership team, the 5 members of our executive leadership team, plus the chairs and vice chairs of our 4 government affairs committees. And they're sort of our sounding board during the legislative session. We also have our key contacts teams, which are our network of folks like y'all who have close connections with their state elected officials. And I know we're going to talk more about that in the political side of the presentation. We have our grassroots, which is really just our membership at large, and the ways that they might reach out to their legislators, including calls for action or just independent engagement of their legislators. And that also includes, of course, our wonderful Realtor Day at the Texas Capitol, which we think, I believe, is the biggest constituent visit day at the Texas Capitol of every year. So these are just a couple of pictures from last time. And we hope that we are going to be able to do this again in person. There's Senator West talking to our friends from the Dallas area. And, you know, we're still, just as an aside, we're still not sure yet how the legislature is going to function in January, whether the Capitol building is going to be open or not. But we will have Realtor Day at the Texas Capitol, whether it's in person or virtual. Don't worry about that. It'll go off one way or another. And then lastly, of course, you have your lobby team, your staff, you know, me and Trey, and actually a lot of the other government affairs staff are lobbyists registered as well. And then we also have our contract lobby team, including your old friend, Daniel Gonzalez, formerly our legislative director, who is now out running his own contract lobby firm, plus a couple of others. So I wanted to make a quick note about lobbyists. For a long time, I always used to try to use different words when describing what I do because, you're never sure when you're going to get tomatoes thrown at you for using the giant capital L word. And this is a meme that's always made me laugh about what that job actually entails. My friends think all I do is hang out in bars and schmooze. My parents think I'm meeting with the president every single day. Our opposition thinks we're committing crimes against nature and humanity, probably because politics is a full contact sport. Society thinks we're just passing briefcases full of money to get votes. I, of course, have a very lofty idea of the there's dramatic music as we climb the Capitol steps. And ultimately what it really means is that we spend a lot of time in committee hearings listening to hours and hours of testimony and just trying to make sure that the realtor voice is heard in all of the debates. So. All right. And lastly, I can't leave a conversation talking about public policy without bringing in my old friend, Pericles, RIP, the Greek philosopher who was made famous for a number of things, but one of his quotes that I like and have always referred to is, just because you do not take an interest in politics doesn't mean politics won't take an interest in you. And again, real estate is an incredibly regulated industry, and what our elected officials are working on every single day probably will have an impact on your business. And therefore we need to make sure you have a good seat at that table that Trey mentioned. So that is the quick overview of our public policy program. And I will pause for just a second. I see some chats. Just want to make sure that we are not missing any questions. But if you have any, just holler at me. Thank you for liking my dragon. It's my motivation for getting stuff done. And if we are good there, RIP indeed. I will move on to our issues mobilization segment. All right, I'm going to see if this one works. Can everyone see issues mob mini orientation? Jamie, give me a nod. Perfect.
You're good.
All right. All right, you get me twice in a row. Ordinarily, I would ask you to raise your hand and show me who is familiar with issues mobilization, but I've only got a couple of you on the screen right now with this pulled up, so I'm hoping that many of you have already gotten familiar with our issues mobilization grant program, but we'll talk a little bit about what that is. This issues mobilization, this is one of my word soup slides. Issues mobilization, our local issues mobilization grant program, is the source of campaign services, expert advice, and funding to help local associations engage in public-facing campaigns to promote or defeat real estate-related proposals in their community. That is so many words. I could never get it out if I wasn't reading it right off the screen. So, all right, let's take that down a couple of notches. So, issues mobilization at Texas Realtors is designed to be a locally facing program that is issues based, not candidates. It is if your city council is talking about taking a vote on land development code, or there is a ballot measure, or your county commission is looking at a proposal that would be detrimental to real estate. So issues based. The grant program itself, the funding that is there, is designed to do public engagement on that issues campaign. We have other ways of engaging our realtor members, and we can talk about that in a little bit, but the funding is to do public-facing outreach and to get just regular people out there walking around on the street to care about and engage on your issue. So we work on an amazing scope of things. Again, as we talked about in the policy segment, there are so many things that could be right for the issues mobilization program. And it starts with what you at the local association care about. So generally it's going to be protections for property owners and residents, for good community development and municipal governance, excuse me. Issues mobilization will fight against intrusive mandates, burdensome regulations, restrictions on those property rights, and much more. Just again, it all starts with what you there at home care about. We range from enormous, multi-layered, very expensive and complex campaigns to very simple and targeted campaigns. We have the Issues Mobilization Committee has approved expenditures in excess of $500,000 and at the minimum of about $500. So we can do a lot of things. It really is nuanced depending on the need that you have. So how do we do it? Well, we do it through a wide breadth of experience and resources that we have here. I get to be right now the person talking about issues mobilization, but everyone in our government affairs department and probably our legal department and sometimes our communications department are all involved in issues mobilization campaigns. So you get to tap into this whole team's expertise and then all of the resources that we bring with us. Here's my other word soup slide. Issues mobilization is a collaboration of policy expertise, political intelligence, community cooperation, campaign skills, and funding combined to deliver clear, convincing messaging to the public in favor of or opposition to local policy proposals. So in other words, we hear what you need, we put it together with what we know and what we think we can do, and magic. So magic can mean a whole bunch of different things. It can be direct mail campaigns out to voters. We built websites. We've built whole social media platforms for campaigns. We help with talking points. We can help you write testimony for city council meetings. We can help you do calls for action, and that could be email or phones or even showing up at council meetings, if that's a thing that's happening in your community right now. TV and radio and all sorts of other things. So this is just an example of some of the many campaigns we've run in the past. So again, some of them were really, really big. Some of them were not very expensive campaigns, but all of them were successful. So it's anywhere from, you know, working on the Leon Valley Lawn Gnomes, was making sure that people had the right to, you know, put up self-expression in their lawns, and all the way up to the Dallas County property taxes was fighting back a really expensive property tax increase. So we can do a whole bunch of things. But we do have limits. Just bear that in mind. Issues mobilization does not give money to another organization. If a community is working with a coalition that already has an established organization, we can work with them, but we're not just going to cut a check of your money over to another group and let them do with it what you want. It's our fiduciary duty to make sure that we know where that money is going. So we prefer to retain control of it. We do not engage in campaigns that would put one local association against another. That hasn't come up since I've been here, but just in case. We, of course, do not break laws. I am wearing stripes today, but it is a constant reminder that I do not always look great in stripes and nobody wants to go to jail, so we do not break laws. Sorry, this is my old joke about we don't wear white after Labor Day. I totally do. Sorry. And my meatloaf slide. So we would do anything for a local issue, but we won't do those things. And I put this in here mostly because I want to get this song in your head for the rest of the day. One last note on issues mobilization. It is not TREPAC. You know about TREPAC, you're going to hear about TREPAC, but you'll sometimes be confronted with a member in your community that is concerned about a local issue and will say, can TREPAC do something about this? The good news is that we have many, many resources to help you work on issues. You don't want to use your TREPAC dollars to do it. TREPAC dollars are fundraised money that come from real people's real bank accounts, and those are really difficult dollars to get. And so you want to make sure those are reserved for your candidate campaigns. And that's why we have the local issues mobilization program. So you don't have to spend that hard-earned hard dollar money on issues campaigns. How did it get so late so soon? Issues mobilization is made to work fast, and they do. Our committee has met even as recently as in the last month or two on a 24-hour notice to approve a campaign and get things going. But it's always better if we have more time to make sure that we are prepared for it. And if you are actively engaged at the early stages of a campaign, we may be able to help you get through it with your elected officials in a way that has a positive outcome without needing to go all the way to a public facing campaign. In that way, issues mobilization is almost the fund of last resort. I don't want to say that because last resort sounds like last minute, and that's not what we mean. But what I do mean is that we have all of those resources that I talked about before with our staff and with the many connections that we have in the campaign world here. We can and do spend a lot of time with our local associations, offering expertise and help behind the scenes before it comes to a public facing campaign. And that is part of the issues mobilization program. So just keep that in mind. It doesn't need to be like this thing is going to burn down at the city council next week. We'd much prefer to hear about it in the early discussion phases and see what we can do to help you in advance. And that is summed up with the best campaign is the one you don't need to run. So keep that timing in mind. So with that in mind, if you see something, say something. If there's an issue that's percolating in your community, let us know. Just give us, we're happy to take an email or a phone call just to give us a heads up. You can go through a whole bunch of different people. You can go through your local association executive, or if you have one, your GAD. All of you have a field rep that's in your area, and our field representatives are absolutely a great point of contact for any issues that you see in your community. Us here in Austin are happy to help too, and that email address there, impact@texasrealtors.com, gets all of us at once. So feel free to send a message there if you want. And with that, lawn gnomes. Sorry, I'm just picking up the chat right now. I see puns and lawn gnomes and a jab about political intelligence. Very funny, sir. All right, does anyone have any questions for me? There was a question about how do we find our field rep. Brandon has posted the link to our webpage in the chat on that. And if y'all have had a chance to write this contact information down, I'm going to go ahead and stop share. And yes, Colin Neely is your rep for those folks down in South Central Texas. Okay, with that, we are ready to turn it over to Dahlia.
Hi, everybody. My name is Dahlia Brown. I'm the Gulf Coast field rep for the Texas Association of Realtors. I'm sorry, it's been like 3 years. I still have to say Texas Realtors. I appreciate all of you taking time out of your busy work week to be a part of TRLP. We've had some amazing leaders throughout the last couple of years who have come from the TRLP program. I'm really glad to be able to take the reins from Julia. One of the things that was a great segue to say, who is my field rep? So let me just tell you a little bit about who we are. In 2006, the Texas Realtors said, you know, it would be a really great program if we could replicate what the National Association of Realtors is doing. So I bet a lot of you have met April Gavin, who was our NAR field rep. And they said, what are the best things about the NAR program and what are the things that we can really make this unique about Texas? And while all the NAR field reps live in DC, all of the Texas Realtor field reps live in their designated areas. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce you to Cullen Neely. Maybe Cullen can wave and say hi.
Hey guys, Colin Neely here.
So Cullen is our South Texas field rep. So he covers Sabor, and basically he covers anything south of I-10 to the valley over to Victoria. And then Josh McDaniel is our North Texas field rep. Josh, can you say hello?
Hello, good to see y'all again.
So Josh has Metrotex, and then he also has basically up to Oklahoma, and then out a little bit farther west. And there are 6 of us across the state. So we have one in West Texas, East Texas, Central Texas, North Texas, South Texas, Gulf Coast, and Central Texas. And the idea is that we live where we work, and we have a really close relationship with the local boards. We understand the politics about what's happening in the community, and we're not, frankly, stuck in the Austin bubble. I think that can happen sometimes when we think everything happens at the Capitol. And the truth is, we get to kind of bring a little bit of the local flavor. So when they said, what do you want the field reps to be a part of? And fundamentally, we are part of the Governmental Affairs Department, but we do represent the entire association. So we'll go sometimes and speak about new education programs, about registering for conferences. A lot of times you'll see us at luncheons, or I do a lot of work with them, the ancillary groups with NARAB, WCR, the Realist Group. So my job is to be a brand ambassador for the association, but also to really pull, like, if someone is having an issue in Houston, whether it is their understanding of an HOA ruling, or maybe you're in El Paso and you're having issues with water rights. That's something that we bring back to the state. We want to make sure that the state understands, hey, if someone's having this problem in one side of the state, they might be having it in the other side of the state. So we fundamentally focus on governmental affairs. Our main issue, of course, are the elections. And in Texas, we have a lot of elections, with the primary being a very important part, but moving into the general election. And we really want locals to be involved locally with county and city commission, because most of the work that you guys do, or the good, the bad, the ugly, fighting politically, happens at the local level. So because of that, our real push is to say, how can I help you? How can I help you be involved at your local board? What are the things that I can do to make your job easier? And I will say it's a blessing and a curse, but both Matthew Church and Brett Finley were previous field reps. So I feel that they have a great intimate relationship and knowledge of what the field rep program does. They will help pull us in at times when they need support. And you guys can always pick up the phone and give us a call, send an email, because we know we'll probably be working with you for the next 10 to 15 years, because TRLP is where our future leaders come from. So because of that, I will say there is no job too big and no job too small for reps. I do all kinds. I love to come and speak to local boards. I love to come and even in the pandemic, I can come and speak to your brokers meeting, or sometimes I've had to have like one-on-one coffees with a board member who maybe doesn't like something we've done politically, and just kind of try to help explain to them some of why we made some of the decisions that we had. So because of that, we do a lot of work with helping you guys stay involved politically. So I like to think that we help you do your job well as a volunteer, and we're here to help support you, and we're here to bounce ideas and resources off of. And so we really want to make sure that anything that we do is to make your position more enjoyable, and that we'll keep you around for a long time, because that's what we really want. We want volunteers that have been involved in the political cycle for 10 or 15 years. So if there's anything that we can do, please reach out. You can, if you maybe forget exactly who your field rep is, don't mind to email us at fieldreps@texasrealtors.com, and that bounces to all of us. So we're here to help you. That's our main job. I will say, I want to double check the chat real quick. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer that right now. And if not, I'm going to go ahead and let everybody go on a quick break, but there's more to come. Brandon Alderetti, our political affairs director, will start at 2:10. So you guys have a little bit of a break to go catch up on emails, get a snack, stretch your legs, and we really appreciate y'all being here.
All right, it looks like we have our break has concluded, so we're going to turn this over to Brandon Alderetti, the Director of Political Affairs of Texas Realtors. Brandon, are you on?
I am here. Hello, everyone. I am struggling with my remote control. There we go. Okay, so hello, everyone, and I'd like to reiterate. I'm Brandon Alderetti. I'm your Director of Political Affairs.
Brandon,
All right, I guess I got muted. I don't know how I did it, but I'm magic like that. So hey, I'm Brandon Alderetti. I'm your state political director here at Texas Realtors. We'll talk a little bit about what that means, but for all intents and purposes, I'm the campaign guy and the grassroots guy. We talked a little bit about this with Julia's presentation about why realtors are involved in politics, and I think this is one of my favorite. I just kind of put together my own word cloud. Julia mentioned, and we use it all the time, we talk about how heavily regulated your industry is, from really before you even get your license all the way through the entire transaction, and then actually afterwards with your homeowners and land use and just everything that we do, that y'all do, is the government is involved at some point. And it's really important, we believe, to have friendly voices and understanding faces, understanding ears at those government agencies or on those elected bodies. We saw this, and we can do this, talk about this in a little bit and wrap up. But the way that during the pandemic that real estate was declared essential so quickly, and the hard work that took, those are a result of the relationships that you have. And really, at the end of the day, politics is a relationship business, and that is why we do what we do. We have 4 goals that I like to use as sort of a guidepost for what we do on the campaign side or the grassroots side. It's all about, I mentioned a second ago, relationships. You guys are in the relationship business, right? So are we. We're in a different kind of relationship. Your relationships are with each other. Your co-opetition, as we call it. But you also have relationships with your clients. Julia and Trey, the lobby team that just spoke to you, they are in the relationship with the people across the street at the Texas Capitol. I'm in a relationship with the political side of things, the campaigns. And all that stuff is based on open and being honest and being trustworthy and all that. And we just want to make sure that my job, the way I look at it, is to ensure that realtors remain relevant at those elected bodies. Everything that I can do to set up the system that allows you guys to maintain relevance. We want to create realtor champions at all levels of government on every single elected body. So no matter what issue is being discussed, if they have a question about anything that touches real estate, they go to you. We want them to go to their local realtor board and their local realtors for subject matter expertise. We do a lot of this because we want to inform and engage you, our members, as well as the general public about the wide variety of real estate issues and the candidates that support those issues and that support homeowners and property owners of all type. And then we want to make sure, this kind of goes with creating realtor champions, that those people know that they can come to us. We want them to know that realtors are involved, and we have these policy positions that we don't pluck out of air. Julia talked about her policy making process with the public policy committees. We'd love them to know that we go through a process like that, and that all this stuff is the result of what real realtors on the street are saying. So for my job, I guess I would say that it's the campaign services side of thing. In fact, I was just editing a mailer for a candidate that we're going to be sending out here in the next couple weeks. You should get this one. And we do all kinds of things. We talked about with issues mobilization specifically. Julia mentioned like mailers and TV. We have a pretty sophisticated campaign services shop that we run out of this building. And we take that expertise and we apply that to either issues or candidate campaigns that we're running. So if somebody in your area is facing a really uphill race, or maybe needs some extra help on the campaign side, we come in with some advocacy on their side. When I say advocacy, I mean mail, social media advertising, pre-roll video, the videos that play before you get to watch your news story or whatever. All that sort of advocacy that you see, we're well capable of doing within this building, and we do frequently. It's a busy time for the political affairs group here at Texas Realtors coming into the presidential. We also have support for local boards, and what I mean by that is we want to help you amplify your voice. We could not do our job here at the state level without partnership and cooperation with our local realtor boards, our local partners, as we often call them here. So we want to be a resource for your board. I've worked extensively with Matthew Church and Brett Finley, and even their predecessors. A lot of you remember Romeo Arietta and Justin Landon at Sabor. We were all very, very close. We worked very closely together. So we like to provide support, whatever that looks like for a local board. Not every local board has a GAT, and so we play different roles for different local boards. That's where your field reps are so important. And then we talk about Realtor Grassroots. And Grassroots, this is the political involvement committee. This is the group that they allow me to staff. You guys may recognize the Metro Tex crew. Front and center there is Varnell. He is your 2020 vice chair of the political involvement committee. He will be ascending to chair next year. And then up in the top left for you Sabor folks, you'll see Jan Hickenbottom. She's, let's see if I can scroll in just a little bit. There she is. There's Jan. She is your regional representative on the political involvement committee for San Antonio. So this, and then David, also from Metro Tex, David McCamey up here is actually the Region 12 representative. Jeff is up in leadership, but just to let you know, this is a group of realtors just like you. I actually don't know this, but I would venture a guess that upwards of 80% of these folks are TRLP grads. That was alluded to a little bit earlier, and it really bears repeating. We have colleagues across the country. We call ourselves GADs, Government Affairs Directors. So the people you're hearing today are the state GADs. Every state association has those, and they always ask us, how do you get your grassroots numbers so high? How are your PAC numbers so high? And I can point to two things. I can point to the development of the field rep program, which I guess is now 15 or 16 years old. And I can point to the creation of TRLP. There is no question that those two things are the most important factors. So little side note there, but thank you all for being here for sure. So what is grassroots, and what do I mean by that? Well, I grabbed this definition, and I can't remember. I probably changed it a little bit, but maybe not. It might totally be copied from somewhere. But it's about people and using collective action to affect change. It's whether it's answering a call for action, or testifying at city council, or showing up to block walk, or making phone banks for a supported candidate or a supported issue. It's the power of people. You'll hear from the dynamic Leslie Cantu here later today, and she is fundraising and dollars and all that stuff totally matters in politics. I will tell you that I think the grassroots side is undervalued when it comes to overall, because the dollars, as useful as they are, do not vote. People vote. People make phone calls. You can buy all that stuff. We had a presenter last year that talked about why realtors are so good at grassroots, and he was not a realtor. He was a guy who worked on a campaign that we helped on. And he said, you guys don't understand what you bring. You bring people, and people are what campaigns pay for. I have to hire block walkers. If I can get you guys to come out and block walk for me as a group, get 2 or 3 volunteers, you're saving me money. I can use that money to go send mail or to get on TV. So you guys are people. You bring the grassroots, and it's the grassroots volunteerism that really shakes things up in political campaigns. Not to say that Tree Pack doesn't matter. I'm a major investor. Everyone you hear from today is a major investor, and we all totally support the PAC. But grassroots is another way to say it is grassroots is bottom up. So we talked about this a little bit earlier too. Texas is on a 2-year political cycle. Jamie, can you put in the chat what time I'm supposed to wrap up? We're on a 2-year cycle. So no matter where we are in that 2-year cycle, we're in the tail end of an election year now. Obviously, we're coming into a presidential. We have grassroots programs going on. So whether we're talking about candidate recruitment or training for candidates, the candidate interviews that the local associations are so good at, voter registration, opportunity races, which I think is something that really, for me, speaks volumes, because that's where we get the realtors really involved. That is, our opportunity race is a realtor-facing campaign that we will execute in partnership with the local association that makes the request. Right now, I think Metro Tex has like 4 or 5 opportunity races because they've got a ton of really contentious campaigns for some really, really good candidates up there. Some really good friends of ours in the Texas Legislature. So we'll use some combination of grassroots, ground support, and then air support to help elect our realtor champions. And then we use TREAPAC dollars to reach out to the campaigns from our staff level, where we help them, like, oh, you need yard signs? Let me buy you 2,000 yard signs using those TREAPAC dollars. So TREAPAC can be direct contributions to a candidate, but it can also be what we call an in-kind contribution or coordinated political activity. The culmination of that, and since we're at where we are in the election cycle, let me just make note of this site, TexasRealtorsSupport.com. When we created this site back in 2014, it was nothing but a list, and it was my contention at that time that a long list is nice for the press and for people inside this area here in Austin, because honestly, maybe the people on this call are the exception. Most people do not know their state house, state senate, and congressional district numbers. So if I give you a list of 225 names, you can maybe vote for like 8 of them, and you're going to have to go hunt. So what we did was we took our support list and we put it into TexasRealtorsSupport.com, and then we did some sorcery, and it allows you as a Texas realtor to enter your address, and it pulls back the candidate we are supporting on your ballot, or the candidates we are supporting on your ballot. So if you go to TexasRealtorsSupport.com, you're going to be confronted with an enter your address. You can also log in. You'll see my name up there where it says welcome. You can actually log in, and then it'll actually pre-populate your address and then spit back all your state and federal candidates. So this is all, I bring this up because this supports what our local boards do. They make recommendations to the TREAPAC trustees. Les will talk to you about that in a little bit, but once those local recommendations are ratified and the TREAPAC trustees make their decision, then they go on to the voter guide. So this is a way that we help support those local boards and amplify their voice. This also has become sort of the cornerstone, because we use that same sorcery to create direct mail pieces. So every Texas realtor should receive a slate mailer of the candidates on your ballot that RPAC and TREAPAC support. It's supposed to work together, because you're also going to get 3 emails from me with that slate. So hopefully they all hit and you see them all and you remember that. And I will point out that you can take your voter guide to the polls, but you cannot take your smartphone into the polls when you vote. So we encourage you to check out TexasRealtorsSupport.com. Share it. It's paid for by TREAPAC, so it's 100% shareable with your clients and on social media and everything like that. And it's cool. It's an interactive voting guide. And I'll show you just what the slate return looks like. So this is the one that when you enter my address, this is who is supported. And we see all the way, since I'm logged in as a realtor, I'm seeing federal and state candidates. So we've got our candidates here, and then I live in an area down here. His name fell off the bottom there. John Busey is my state rep. I live in an area that is one of the real contentious races. So that actually swung to Democrats last time, and John Busey was great for us. So he made the TREAPAC support list. you know, a lot of people want to talk about, not only ask me why are we involved in politics, but they want to talk about the partisan politics. And this is something that I'll get back to my presentation in a second. It's real easy to make those distinctions on Republican and Democrat, right? That's the easy thing. It's really easy to just tack on a D and an R and think you know what that person stands for. There's a lot of different ways, y'all, to look at the Texas legislature. And Republican and Democrat is the one that makes the headline. There are, I mean, you've got really big fights between, not fights, I should say, different perspectives from urban versus rural and suburban. Those are three different factions that compete for resources and airtime and oxygen in the room. You've got inland versus coastal areas. You've got water rich versus water poor areas. A big one is Chapter 41 versus Chapter 42. So Robin Hood school districts, donor schools versus recipient schools. That's a really big fight. And that, so you'll see sometimes the most conservative Democrat, most conservative Republican and the most liberal Democrat or progressive Democrat come together and vote the same way on something for totally different reasons. So just be advised that there's a lot of ways to slice and dice that body. Don't just focus on the R and the D. Anyway, forgetting all that, back to the grassroots legislative programs we run. The Legislative Liaison is a wonderful newsletter that is written here in this office. I'm sure Jamie will tell you a little bit about that. There's a lot of places you can go to find information about what's happening at the Texas Capitol. But there's only one that's written for realtors by realtor staff, and that's the Legislative Liaison. It's easy to sign up there at texasrealestate.com. We're also totally revamping our legislative contact teams, and we're working towards the next thing is Realtor Day on the Capitol, where the legislative contact teams go in and make those visits, the actual in-person constituent visits. We don't know, as Julia mentioned, what that might look like in the 87th Texas Legislature. I will tell you that your political involvement committee and the legislative contact teams are hopeful that it will be live, but preparing for it to be virtual. So we have already had one training session on developing and maintaining relationships in a virtual environment. And we have a series of 4 more that are coming for our legislative contact teams. If you are interested in serving on a legislative contact team, if you know an elected official or you're willing to get on a team and be one of those leaders who carries the association's message, let your field reps know. texasrealestate.com/field reps. And then of course, calls for action, which everybody knows what that is. You get the association, whether it's NAR, Texas Realtors, or your local association, asks you to carry a message to your lawmakers where you become an extension of the lobby effort. And that really helps when you know that realtors are speaking with one voice, right? So here's our portal for Realtor Day at the Capitol. We try and make that as easy as possible for you. So being that Sabor's here, I pulled up one of your state representatives, Steve Allison. This is the portal that we put together for Realtor Day at the Texas Capitol. So when you go in, you're going to have customized talking points as well as a way to provide us feedback. And then all sorts of information about who the lead contact is, Kim Bragman here for Steve Allison, and then their staff's information and everything like that. So try and make it as easy as possible for you to carry that relevant information. So that's sort of why we do what we do. Put my contact information up. So grab a screenshot of that or take a picture or forget it. But I'm here. I'm happy to answer any questions. I see there's some chat. Let me catch up here. All right, looks like I don't see any questions from me. All right.
And we are going to throw this over to Leslie Cantu, our tree pack director. Leslie, are you on the line?
Yes, and you're going to share screen, right?
Yes, just give me 1 second. I'll get.
Okay, So hi, everybody. I'm Leslie Cantu, and I'm the Tree Pack Director. And while Jamie switches over, first I want to say hi to everybody out there in virtual world, especially my San Antonio people, because that's my hometown. So shout out to all of y'all from San Antonio. And I do want to, when I ask you, I'm not going to do a poll, but I'm going to have you raise your hand. How many of y'all wish that you were here in Austin at the state capitol today? Show your hands. Awesome. How many of you are happy that you're at home in the comfort of your own home or at work rather than be in Austin? Anybody? Oh, I see a few people. So I love honesty. Thank you for honesty. Okay, so last question. How many of y'all, I know we talked about it earlier, you wouldn't be here if you didn't know, but how many of y'all, I want full honesty, have never heard about Tree Pack before? Anybody? Do I need to scroll through? Okay, awesome. That means we have the right people on the right bus, in the right seats at the right time. So kudos to all of you. We are so excited. And I love the fact that there are so many new faces. I see some familiar faces. And if I were in person, those are the people I like to pick on a little bit. I see Lacey, our trustee from Sabor. I don't know if Tony's got on yet. You're gonna hear from him. He's our Rockstar Tree Pack chairman this year, who amazing pack chairman this year. You'll hear him on the panel. But just quickly, I'm going to talk really, really fast because I have a whole lot of information with not a whole lot of time. And so, Jamie, please keep me on track because I could hang out with y'all all afternoon and talk Tree Pack all day long. But I only have 15 minutes. So with that, I'm going to try to move real quickly. So if you will advance, please, Jamie. So I was trying to think, I've done this presentation for many, many years, about 18 years now, and we've changed it a little bit, but I was trying to think about what is different this time around. What's different in what our message is for Tree Pack. And really, my entire presentation could be focused on this one word, right? Essential, right? How important this word was for us this year during this pandemic. And of course, the definition, we all know what it is, but it's good to see the definition: absolutely necessary, extremely important, right? And so in thinking about, that's really what my entire presentation is going to be about. And you know, we were lucky that real estate was deemed a essential service during the pandemic, correct? And I say the term lucky because in Tree Pack world, that word does not exist. And so we'll talk a little bit about that more as we go. So if you'll advance the slide, please. So again, we're going to talk a lot about Tree Pack is essential, absolutely necessary, and what you do in your daily life as a realtor, as a property owner, as a homeowner, and as a Texan here in the great state of Texas. And you know, we say a lot that during this course, the TRLP course, this session right here, the advocacy, the government affairs, oftentimes we hear from our TRLP participants that this is their aha moment. This is the time when they say, you know what, I've heard about Tree Pack. They talk about Tree Pack all the time. Quite frankly, I'm tired of hearing about Tree Pack, but it's this moment where it finally clicks. It's that aha moment where a lot of our TLP members will say, I get it. Now I know why Tree Pack is so important and quite frankly, why it's essential. So if you will advance, please. So we're going to talk about real quickly in 15 minutes, the who, the when, the what, the where, the how, and particularly in the why. So let's advance, please. Go to the next one. We're going to talk about the who Tree Pack is. So I'm going to start with our mission. And I promise I'm not going to read all these slides, but it's important for you to know what the mission of Tree Pack is: to raise and disperse funds, to promote homeownership, protect real property rights, and increase political awareness. So the importance for you to know what the mission of Tree Pack is several reasons. But quite frankly, we hear all the time, especially our lobbyists that are across the street and locally as well, and federally, that realtors, all you care about is what? Making money, right? Your commissions. So we hear that all the time. But this mission statement of Tree Pack speaks to that, yes, because you should care about making money because that's your livelihood, right? But the mission of Tree Pack speaks to that and more than that. Again, it speaks to you as a realtor and your business, right? Protecting your business, being successful in your business. It speaks to you and your clients as property owners, as business owners, again, and of course, making sure that the overall viability, economic viability in the state of Texas stays afloat. And that's why the mission of Tree Pack is so important and so critical for us to know. Okay, please advance. I'm going to go real quickly. So who are we again? So we are the largest PAC in the state of Texas. We're very proud about that because of people like you, our members, who ensure and understand the value of TREPAC. So last year, now this was 2019, we raised over $5.7 million, right? So that's the good news, right? We had 48 participation out of our last year, 125,000 members. Okay, so the good news is we had 48%, but what's the bad news? And I would ask you this question if I was there. The bad news is what? You can do the math. 52% of our members, of our Texas realtors, did not invest 1 cent, 1 penny in their business. But yet, guess what? They were reaping the benefits of those of you who did invest in your business, in your industry, right? And they were riding the legislative successes, the coattails of all the successes we've been able to have as a result of a strong PAC and strong grassroots. And then, of course, what TREPAC does is, and we'll talk a little bit more about, just being involved in the election cycles. And this is the last 2 election cycles, and obviously we are in an election cycle right now. So please advance. Okay, so obviously, what is TREPAC? Please advance the slide. So you don't need me to tell you, we are a PAC, right? What do PACs do? You contribute, you collect contributions from all of our members, aggregate that into one fund, and then you donate to campaigns for or against. You heard Julia talk already about, you know, what she does on the issue mode side. And what TREPAC does, of course, we contribute to those candidates who are going to look after our real estate issues, correct? Okay, so go ahead and move forward. So this is a great slide. Again, this is what we do. This is why TREPAC exists. And this, I love this slide right here. And actually one of our field reps created the slide. So here you can see you've got Texas realtors, right? That are TREPAC investors, not just Texas realtors, but TREPAC investors that are holding up what? If you can see it, elected officials. These are the candidates that we support, right? And they're holding up what? Issues, public policies, issues that impact you. Again, your clients, your business, your profession, all of the above. With real estate transfer tax, which I can't even see, I'm getting old. Private property rights. Oh, sorry, well, I couldn't see the issues, but anyway, okay. There we go, it's okay. Consumer protection, infrastructure, small businesses, you name it. Again, that's what we do. We make sure that we send those elected officials at the local, state, and national level to office who are going to look after our legislative and public policy issues. And you heard Julia and Brandon talk about everything's kind of done in advance, ahead of time, the relationships that are built. What do you think allows that, having the strength of the PAC and having the strength of the grassroots going into a legislative session like we will soon do, right? Having that strength behind us going into what we're about to see coming up in this next session. Okay, go ahead and advance. Okay, sorry I'm talking so fast, everybody, but what is TREPAC? Of course, if you don't already know, we're not Republican, we're not Democrat, what are we? We're the Realtor Party, right? And we are, unfortunately, sadly, we are a voluntary group. And I say sadly because, you know, I said earlier, 52% last year did not invest. And it's even higher this year. Obviously, we're in a different time right now, but it's voluntary. If I wish we can make it mandatory, because there is no reason why every single Texas realtor is not investing in their business. There is no reason. So TREPAC is a voluntary organization that we support all 3 levels of government. And of course, we talk all the time about how it is in your insurance policy to make sure you're protected. You have insurance on everything else in your life, right? Your home, your car, your flood, right? You have insurance on everything. But what about your business? And I'm not talking about E&O type of insurance, liability insurance. I'm talking about insurance to ensure that you can continue being successful, not only being successful, but you can continue in the business that you do and that you love. And of course, that's where we got lucky in being essential this year, correct? Okay, advanced slide. Okay, so let's talk a bit about the why. So these I'm going to go through real fast. Why TREPAC is important. So, and you may or may not be able to see, but I use these slides all the time. So this was back in 2009. So these are the top PACs that every year they list the top PACs in the state of Texas. And TREPAC is number, gosh, I can't even read my own, is up in the top, up there at the top. The biggest banks, the biggest accounts for the top PACs in Texas. Okay, advanced slide. This was in 2011. There's TREPAC up there again, the most cash on hand with over $5 million. Okay, advance. 2012, the top 150 PAC contributors, there's TREPAC number 3, also at the top of the list. Okay, please advance. Okay, 2015, that we're number 4, not only the biggest PAC in contributions given to candidates, but also dollars coming in. Okay, and please advance. And then this is a new one. This is for 2020. Again, these are the top PACs in the state of Texas. And you can see there we are right underneath there. And I love, this is a quote that I took from this particular source, Transparency USA, and they had us listed in the comments under TREAPAC. They said, always a powerhouse in Texas politics. I love hearing that. That's such a great comment to say. But why is it important that I show you these lists? And I go back all the way to 2009. The reason why I show you these lists is because it's so important that TREAPAC be at the top of these lists over and over and over because of power, influence, and credibility, right? Power to make sure that our legislative agenda gets passed, as we've talked about the session coming up. Influence to know that we have the ear of every single elected official at the local, the state, and the national level, right? And credibility to know that any time that Texas Realtors are behind an issue, or any time that TREAPAC and Texas Realtors are behind a candidate, that the people of Texas know that it's the right thing to do. And that's why it's so important to be on these lists, not only be on the list, but be at the top of these lists over and over and over, to be the powerhouse in Texas politics. Okay, please advance. Okay, again, a little bit more about why do we need TREAPAC? Well, think about the last bullet there. Without TREAPAC, who's looking out for you? Who's protecting your pocketbook? Okay, please advance. I love this slide right here. Think about this for 1 second. What if TREAPAC did not exist today? What if there were no PAC? What if we did not exist? What would your business look like right now? What would our industry look like today? Would you even be in business? Would Texas look like some of the other states right now? Would real estate even be essential today? Think about that. If TREAPAC did not exist today, would you be essential? Okay, next slide. And there you go, just reiterating what we mentioned. Okay, so just a little bit further. So we've asked, we've done various surveys, and this is a recent survey we did, I think, a year ago. So we asked our own members, how many of you have heard of TREAPAC? Overwhelmingly, 97% heard of TREAPAC. Fantastic, that's good news, right? People know who we are. We asked them, will you be voting in the 2016 election? And here you see 63% said yes. Okay, that's a good sign. People understand the importance of voting, being involved in the political process. Okay, next slide. Same question, would you be, next slide, in 2018, would you be voting in the 2018 election? 80%, again, large percentage of our members said, of course, we're gonna go out and vote. Again, a good sign, our members see the importance of being involved in the political process. And I'm hoping that this election, those numbers will even go higher to 100% of voter turnout among our Realtor family. So knowing that our members understand the importance of voting in the political process, why are there 52%, and now more so this year, that aren't investing, period? So we asked our members, why? Why are you not investing in TREAPAC? So here, 28% have said they can't afford to invest. So there is, I mean, understandably so, of course, this time, different times, but the fair share investment is $35. So, you know, there's things we can work on there. 20% just said they flat out don't want to. 16% said they don't support our candidates. 3% said they've never been asked. And 15% said they don't even think about it. Again, this goes back to the point I was trying to make about real estate being essential, deemed essential early on in the pandemic, that we were lucky, right, to be essential. Please advance. So we realized, and we asked those survey questions of our members, people who just don't understand it, they don't have enough information, they just don't want to, they didn't think about it, they don't care about who we support. So we realized that we are not doing a proper job really educating our Realtor members about how all of this is connected, right? How TREAPAC and all we do in our government affairs, in our public policy, in our advocacy, how all of that is directly connected to what Realtors do in their ability to buy and sell real estate, to be brokers, small business owners, again, private property rights, home ownership, a viable economy, and being successful in our industry. Going back to that word, essential. Real estate being essential. TREAPAC is absolutely necessary to being essential. Okay, please advance. I know I have a few more minutes, so I'm going to go through fast. Here's just a sample of our history of success because, again, of a strong PAC, strong advocacy, all of those things. So if anyone needs these talking points, if you have, everyone here probably knows a broker or a colleague, somebody in your office who they're like, I don't get tree PAC, I don't buy into tree PAC. Show them our successes that we have done in the years past. Okay, advance. And then, of course, just right here, just through this pandemic right now, everything we've been able to do federally, statewide, and of course, what y'all have been able to do locally, just through the advocacy during this whole COVID-19. Again, going back to that one word, essential, real estate being essential. Okay, advance. I've got a couple more minutes. Okay, so again, we asked more surveys, questions. How many, how familiar are you with what TREAPAC does with their dollars? Again, a large percentage of our own members have said they're not familiar. They don't really know what we do with our TREAPAC dollars. Again, this is where I would look to you, the future leaders of our association, to truly get out there and have those communications with your colleagues, your brokers, your clients, your agents, and let them know what we do really on your behalf and our members' behalf. Okay, please advance. So this is just a historical graph, kind of where we've been and where we are today. Actually, this was from 2019. We don't have 2020 year yet, and this was not the total for 2019. But you can see that we've got the participation totals and the PAC dollars. Again, we have the highest participation totals we've ever achieved is 54% of our Texas realtors investing in TREAPAC. So that is our ongoing challenge, is to make sure, again, 100% of our Texas realtors are investing in their business. Okay, please advance. So I'm going to go through the how, the things we do administratively. That's going to be really quick. Please advance. Where do your PAC dollars go? I'm going to go through that really fast. Real quickly, all the local boards, basically what we do is we set a quota with each local association. And again, $35, which is not a lot to protect your business, your industry, your pocketbook. $35 is what we set, and we multiply that by your number of members that you have with SABOR and with MetroTex. So we'll use this example here. This particular association, their quota for the year would be $17,000. Okay, please advance. And I'm going to go through these real fast so you could see how that splits, that allocation splits. So anyone who invests $35, your money is split up between TREAPAC, the local association, and of course the national association. And I see SABOR's fair share is $40, and a lot of our local associations' fair share is higher than the $35. Thank you, Lacey, for pointing that out. So that's how it's split. Before 75% of that quota is met, the quota that I just showed you before. Okay, advance one more time. And then after your local board quota is met that I showed you, then for every $35 or $40 or $45 for MetroTex I see there, that's how your investment is split up. So again, it's an incentive for you to invest more money, to raise more money, so you can get that much more money coming back to your local association, so you can use for, and I do have a slide, go ahead into the next slide. So you can use for either local campaign contributions for mayor, school board, city council, or you can use to further administer the PAC there for your local, at the local level. And so you can see this, and this is more for the lawyers and the staff with your association, the two types of funds. You've got corporate and personal. In Texas, we do, the law does allow us to take in PAC contributions that are both of corporate nature and of personal nature. We just need to make sure they fall in the right buckets when they come to our office. And Andre Pennington, if you have not met her on our staff, is a rock star. So she handles all of that stuff. Okay, so let's go through it. I'm gonna, sorry, I think, let's go through these candidate support real quickly. Brandon touched on that. It's all local. It starts with you. So let's go to the next slide. What I do want you to know here is Brandon did mention quickly, because we are in election cycle, he talked about the interview process that he works with his group at the local board. And then those recommendations come up to your PAC trustees, Lacey being one of them with the San Antonio Board of Realtors. So those PAC trustees, they meet with all the other trustees in the state, and we decide who our TREAPAC support, who our recommendations are going to be for the primary for their general election, based on what comes up from your local board recommendation. And both groups, both boards here on this call today, y'all are highly engaged, highly active And that is so critical because, again, as you know, all politics is local. And I would look to many of y'all in this group as the future leaders of your associations, that one day you would like to serve in the capacity, being in the right seat at the right time as a TRPAC trustee going forward. Okay, so let me just see if there's any other, so please advance, because I think I can wrap this up in like 1 or 2 more minutes. Okay, go ahead. Just do a couple more of those. Wait, go back to that one. I do want to go back one more, please. Okay, on here, fundraising, the reason why I'm bringing this up, obviously we're in a whole new world of fundraising. We're in a virtual world, but what I wanted to point out here is there is a front, a middle, and a back end to fundraising. Okay, so the back end, that's the fun stuff, right? That's all the fun things that people like to join in, and the auctions and all those kind of things. And those are great, right? Because they bring in lots of money, especially right now in this virtual world. Everybody's doing virtual auctions, which is fantastic. But we talk about the connecting the dots, and we talk about creating a TRPAC culture that people will invest in good times and in bad and in challenging times, like right now. Everything that we're doing right now, which is the middle, that's having the conversation, because that's going to be more important now than ever in this virtual world. Really talking in this noisy political world, because there's so much, politics is so noisy right now, right? And so it's going to be so important for you as leaders to hone in our message, our TRPAC message. Have those conversations with your brokers, your agents, your colleagues, anybody, again, about why the PAC is important to you and why it should be important to them. And once you start creating that culture, then what happens? At the front end of fundraising, which is dues billing, our members automatically check that box because it's the cost of doing business. They understand that they're bought into the culture, they get it, they realize TRPAC is essential, absolutely necessary, and so they check that box, they do their job, and they have made their investment for the year. Okay, so please advance, and I know I'm going to go ahead, advance. I'm just going to run you through. Okay, so we're clicking on this one again. If not now, then when? Again, going back to you being the leaders of the future leaders of your associations. Again, you're the right people at the right time, and this is a challenging time. This is a critical time, but we need TRPAC more than ever. So please advance. We need you to please advance and keep going. So just again, we can be one voice, we can be a few voices, or we can be one more, we can be a voice of thousands if you invest in TRPAC. So real quick, I would challenge you, so help us spread the word, TRPAC together. I would challenge you, the TRLP classes, 2 things. 1, make sure you finish off your investment. September 30th is our deadline this year. But 2, in honor of the 100th year Texas Realtor celebration, we have asked realtors to post their one word, their TRPAC one word, their one reason why TRPAC is essential. So please, I challenge each of you to go post your TRPAC one word to Facebook, #ShapingTexas, #TRPAC, #100 reasons why, any of those things. But with that, I thank you so much, and I'm so sorry if I went over time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Leslie. And now we're going to turn to Jamie Lee, our Director of Advocacy Communications, to give her presentation.
Well, hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Give me just a second to click some buttons, and we will get started. This is a hello again to some of you who I had the privilege of meeting and talking with earlier this year when you attended the spokesperson training sessions and all the fun we had there. Also doing those virtually in a time when would have much preferred to do them in person. You are absolutely one step closer to earning that coveted TRLP designation. So I am your Director of Advocacy Communications, and I always like to say that I have the best job of us all because I get to tell all the stories of all the great advocacy work that everyone is doing in politics, public policy, fundraising, and local issues. And so I hope your ears have been burning because we have been talking about you. And I just wanted to run you through a few of the ways that we get the word out about your advocacy efforts, in addition to the general work that our marketing communication team does an excellent job of getting information out about market data and real estate trends. So I hope you'll walk with me a little while as we talk about advocacy communications. It is a a fun opportunity, a great challenge, because we have 130,000 plus members. We have new members joining our organization every day. We're trying to reach local associations. We're trying to meet lawmakers themselves, media, targeted groups within our organization, and especially consumers. So we reach them every way we can. We have digital presence. We have our print products through our magazine and other publications. Big media relations push on the advocacy side, and really earned media with local reporters and thought leaders, we'll say. We have our text message program, which I think it was Jeff Farnell who put that in the chat. If you want to bump that up, that would be appreciated. If you just send a text to 30644, send the word TX Realtors, you'll be signed up for the Realtor Party Mobile Alerts program. And that's one of the many ways we work to get the word out to our members. It's a big lift, and we also are extremely busy on social media. These are just the ones I could remember. I may be missing some. I think at one point we had a Snapchat channel. So we're very active in spreading the word about what our members are doing. So I'm going to walk you through a few of the ways that you can stay engaged, and I will have a list at the end. So you won't need a pop quiz for that, but hopefully Brandon or Jamie can put it in the chat. We have our blogs updated daily with very often we include advocacy content about local issues wins that we were able to help with, or state wins, elections previews, elections recaps. There's always something every day to talk about politically or on the public policy side. We also have the Legislative Liaison newsletter that Brandon mentioned earlier. You visit texasrealestate.com/liaison to sign up for that. Generally during session, we send it at least weekly. Often it could even be going daily. There's just so much information to get out. Once we have our slate of supported issues and then specific bills as they move through session, there are incredibly timely updates that members benefit from learning about. And honestly, one of the goals of this is for you to forward along the information. We want you to be the information source and for you to tell your clients and your network all that's going on in the Capitol. So sign up for Liaison, please. And once you get it, share it like crazy. We are very happy for you to copy, paste, plagiarize us, whatever you need, because it's your content. Any questions about that, please always do reach out. Another fun component of what we do is our events. We have a lot of in-person events with an asterisk there that it's changed this year. So for those of you, I hope many of you have been with us in DC for NAR's Hill visits. And this is what that used to look like. I grabbed a picture from May 2016 when Senator Cornyn was addressing our group. Hundreds and hundreds of realtors hearing from Senator Cornyn, Senator Cruz, Congress members, all in person. And I am fortunate that I get to help tell the story of the success that was Hill visits and how realtors were engaged in leading the discussion to pass pro-real estate legislation. So that's what it used to look like. Oh, my pictures might not be the best. Okay, just takes a second. So I grabbed some of our pictures from the MetroTex and the Sabor folks who were meeting with Congress members last year. And check out this photo with Colin Allred. I hope some of you were there to experience what it's like to have a hallway meeting. And, you know, sometimes meetings happen fast or you just can't fit in a meeting room, literally. So it's a great example of how grassroots advocacy happens, you know, everywhere it needs to. So this year, that has changed. And we're doing a lot of this, a lot of Brady Bunch style. So we had our in-person, we had our virtual conference. We had a public policy forum with state lawmakers. We invited Texas Tribune reporters. We invited Senator Cornyn, Senator Cruz, Representative Moody. Julia, I apologize for putting Ted Cruz's photo over you, but I'm sure you will forgive me for that. Just wanted you to know that we are working very hard to let the public, let consumers know that realtors are huge grassroots advocates and the work that you do benefits them across the board. It is not just among the profession. It really literally benefits everyone in who buys, sells, leases real estate in Texas. I told you I love this. I'm so passionate about what we do. So really this is getting toward the end of just what I wanted to say of why it's so important. Not just that realtors are engaged and they have these wins, but that we get the word out about these wins. That we are telling people the great work you're doing, getting sort of mileage about them. Actually, in the upcoming magazine, we're going to have some write-ups about our local issues wins. Sabor, look for your, the Right to Cure ordinance, where 100+ realtors went down to City Hall, masks on, social distancing, and fought for an ordinance that would have been harmful to real estate. So we're doing what we can to really shine the light and get the word out about the work you're doing. It benefits you, it benefits your clients, it benefits the Realtor brand, and it benefits your business and the consumers that you're serving in other ways. One last campaign I really wanted to hit on is one that's extremely timely right now. And if someone on my team will put the website in the chat, knowyourtaxes.org. This is a property tax education campaign we're engaged in full steam ahead right now. It is called the You Deserve to Know campaign. This stems from one of those giant legislative successes that Julia talked about. In Senate Bill 2 last session, huge realtor advocacy win, great giant property tax reform bill that passed. Realtors were at the Capitol advocating for it in person, sending letters, making calls, sending emails, constant communication with lawmakers. We got the win, and now it's been so important to educate people about not just what changed in the law, but the basics of property taxes. Our research, our anecdotal evidence has shown that consumers often just don't understand the basics about property taxes. So this has been a really fun, productive campaign for us, and knowyourtaxes.org is the cornerstone of that campaign. So it's an education campaign for the public. We're targeting really anyone who owns a home, who's ever protested their appraisal, who's a registered voter. We're doing a huge push on this statewide. So hopefully you've seen some of our messaging about this. It's just something we're very passionate about because it's a great example of us getting the word out about realtor advocacy. And that really is the biggest highlights of what I wanted to point on. So your 3 to-dos, your homework, is go subscribe to the blog, texasrealestate.com/blog, subscribe to our newsletter, texasrealestate.com/liaison, and check out knowyourtaxes.org. Those are just 3 really great examples of what we're doing to let the world at large know that you're very busy on their behalf. Thank you very much.
All right, are there
Also,
any questions
I have
for
the
Kim?
privilege of giving you a break. Jamie Sims, is that right?
Yes, that's right. So we are going to take another brief break, and we'll come back at 3:10, and that will be our panel moderated by our own Cindy Bulla, chairman of the board, and our 4 GA committee chairs for 2020. So we will see you back here in 10 minutes to begin that panel. All right, we have about 30 seconds left before we begin. So if everyone wants to start turning their cameras back on and getting set up, so we can get right into that delightful panel we have lined up for everyone. Oh boy, I don't know if anyone else can hear that off my computer, but apparently that ends in a police siren. So, so our 10-minute break is over. So we are going to begin our year in review panel led by Cindy Bulla, our 2020 chairman of the board. And I will turn this over to her so she can kick it off. Oh, Cindy, I believe you're muted still.
Oh, you'd think after 10,000 hours of Zoom, I would check that first. Thank you, Jamie. And thank you all for having me this afternoon and giving me a few minutes of your very valuable time. I'm really looking forward to actually interacting with you all today. You are obviously the future of this organization, and your collective wisdom and your collective input and certainly your collective decision making to enter into the Texas Realtors Leadership Program and perhaps enter into various different levels of leadership of our organization is tremendously appreciated. And it is why we are a century old this year and why we will celebrate a bicentennial in another 100 years. So thank you all for having me. What I'd like to do first is introduce the segment that we're going to have. We're going to talk with some of our Governmental Affairs Committee leadership members. And so I'll start by introducing them. Joining us today, we have Brandy Guthrie. She is our 2020 PIC chair. And Jamie, I don't know if they can see them as I'm introducing them or not, but hopefully they can. So give us a wave, even if you're just waving at yourself. Tony Lloyd, our 2020 TREPAC chairman, Kaki Libbert, our 2020 Public Policy Oversight Committee chair, and Connie Neswitsky, our 2020 Issues Mobilization vice chair. And they're here today. We're going to ask them to help us understand and discuss what it's like to serve on these three key groups and how they began with the original plan for the year and how that plan had to be altered and maybe some insights on leadership and why you may go in with one plan, but you have to be ready to adjust for whatever comes your way during that year. And so we're going to start out with some questions, and then later you all will be asked if you have any questions. As you think of those, go ahead and type those into the chat. And our staff's going to be monitoring that chat, so we'll have an opportunity to put those out after we have them answer a few other questions, and then we'll also allow you to unmute yourselves and ask them directly if you choose to do so. So let's get started, and let's just start with the most obvious question. And Tony, I'm going to pitch this one to you first. Tell us about what your goals were coming into 2020, and then kind of how those evolved or changed as 2020 kicked off. Tony?
Sure, Cindy, thank you. And thank you. I would like to join you, Cindy, and thanking everybody for allowing us to be on today. And I see a lot of familiar faces, and our future looks bright. So glad to see all of you. Certainly, Cindy, did something happen this year that changed our plans? Did I miss that memo? You know, we definitely had our goals set at the beginning of the year. Last year, I think Leslie alluded to that earlier. Last year was our most successful year fundraising for TREPAC ever. It was our best participation ever. And our goals this year were to exceed those, to exceed our best year ever. And so certainly that has changed as this has all happened, and we'll get into the details a little bit, but we just had to kind of adapt and listen to our people and listen to our boots on the ground and what our trustees were doing with our members. And kind of had to react a little quicker sometimes than I think we're used to. So that was definitely kind of something that set us up this year. We had the best laid plans. I'll tell you, a lot of things changed about our approach, and we can get into that in a little bit. But the reason, and we started this year with and people are maybe tired of seeing it, but we started this year with start with why. And when we did that, we asked, and Leslie alluded to it earlier, and we'd still love for you to post your why you invest in TREAPAC. So that was a big deal to make people realize why we invest in TREAPAC. And then certainly when COVID hit and we were invited to the table by our governor and our legislators, there was never more proof of why we invest in TREAPAC and why we were essential, and all the words that you've heard. So we may not have our best fundraising year ever, but certainly we have kept our seat at the table. We have lots of folks, I'm sure many of you included, that are sure working hard out there. We had the heart of our fundraising season kind of taken away from us. And so during that time, we chose to educate and make sure people knew what we were about. But certainly our plans have changed, and I know we'll get into those details more in a little bit. Thanks, Cindy.
Thank you, Tony. Brandy, let's pitch to you. I know you had some unique challenges with your grassroots stand and all that. Talk about your original goals going in and how you had to change those and allow them to evolve.
Sure, thank you. Thank you for the question, and thanks for having us here. I think for the Political Involvement Committee, our goals didn't really change. The methods on how we actually accomplish them did. For the PIC in an election year, our main focus is to make sure that our TREAPAC supported candidates feel the love from the realtors, not just with our TREAPAC dollars, but with the grassroots efforts that we do. Of course, that looks a little bit different without having the in-person opportunities, but the goal still remains the same. We've just had to adapt and reach out and support them in different ways, which I think has been educational and definitely something that I hope we can continue to do. One of the other goals that we had was continuing to leverage and rebuild our legislative contact teams. What we've evolved in this is now we are getting specialized training on how we'll be able to continue to build those relationships with the elected officials in a virtual capacity, and how we can engage with them meaningfully with everything being virtual as it is.
Thank you, Brandy. Connie, so you're on the issues side. Can you talk to us about your original committee goals going in with issues mobilization and how those changed or evolved as the year progressed?
Well, we started out, we wanted to be able to get out to our local associations in our region as to what issues mobilization does. And so we wanted to put forth a marketing program, and Chairman David Pruitt did do some advertisements with the staff early in the year, that those were shown at the live meetings that we have. And then of course, COVID shut us down. And so we didn't get to have as many of those as we would have liked to have had, but we want to carry that on into 2021. And that's what we're hoping that we do, because we want our associations in our regions to know what we do, who we are. So I'm also looking forward, as chairman coming up in 2021, to try to encourage all of our members on this committee to become TREAPAC contributors. And so I'm going to be gung-ho about that.
Amen.
Thank you so much, Cindy, for all your leadership.
Oh, thank you.
You're
Connie.
welcome.
And you're probably going to see, and probably already have, because I think that's the point of this module, is to see how these things all interface and interlace. So you'll see all of us sort of cross pitching for the others, because it all works together. So let's move on to public policy committees. And so you all probably know by now that there's the 4 public policy committees, and they report to an oversight committee. And Kaki Libbert is the chairman of that oversight committee. So Kaki, I know yours will be a little bit different because there were several committees that reported to yours, but talking about goals and how that changed as 2020 evolved, what would you have to add, Kaki? Do we have Kaki?
Kaki, I think you're muted.
She'd think I'd figure that one out. Okay, I was going to say, yes, you're right. It's a little different. There's 4 committees underneath. There's land use, taxation, infrastructure, and business issues. So you have a lot of people in those committees that are all working on this. And to start out with, before the COVID hit, we had some very lofty ideas of what all we were going to look at. We haven't looked at HOAs in, I know it's been 10 years, it's probably been 20. We always go back and reassess the bills that passed in the last session of 2018, how those fared, what that looks like. Do those need any tweaking? You know, landlord tenant, that was another big one. There was all kinds of stuff that we were going to look at. And then when this shut down, we had to really reassess. And, you know, our lobbying team was really tied up with the governor's office. And we had kind of had to backtrack and kind of go from what we had wanted to do beginning to go take that wish list and pare it down into what we had to do. So, and each one of those 4 committees had to take that list and go down, this is essential, and can we get anything else done? So it was different. It was different, but we got it done.
So Kaki, back to you. We started the year, I think you even were able to get in some of your committee meetings in person, and then literally overnight had to switch to virtual. So I'd love to hear you talk about the switch itself, what the challenges were on that switch, but then let's talk about, were there any benefits or especially with yours, because I know a lot of what your committees do is it has to be confidential because we ask people to weigh in that may or may not want to be quoted.
Well, we only got 1 session in beforehand, and each one of those 4 committees comes into Austin to meet for a full day or sometimes 2 days, several different times. So we were having to take all those hours and crunch it into Zoom. So, and you just can't put people on these subjects sitting on Zoom all day long or for multiple days. So we had to break those down into shorter sessions. Like most of them were 2 hours, and we did, I think they said we did over 100 hours of Zoom with those committees from April through July. Well, actually past that, because then we had some more in August. But we did that. We pared it down and we put everything online, all the documents that we needed. We would talk 1 week, we'd say, okay, we're going to meet in 2 weeks. And mostly Julia Parento and Jamie Sims would get the documents together that we've asked for. They'd have them online for us. So it was a different format. Was there a positive? I mean, I'll tell you the negatives, I'll tell you the positives. The positive, I think, may have been, we had some great speakers. Now, we always have, but it may have been a little easier to get those people because they weren't having to travel to Austin to meet with us. And we may have had some that we couldn't have gotten otherwise. So, and they are incredibly essential to what we're doing, is to hear these outside entities come talk to us about what they're needing, what they're seeing, you know, because they are the experts in the field, or they may have a different take that we needed to hear. We may not agree with it, but we needed to hear it. So I think it was, I have sat on these committees for, I don't know, 15 or 20 years, and it is difficult in a Zoom situation to get people to debate. And that's really what you need in these. And that was very difficult to do. It's real easy for one person to control that conversation. I think it's a lot harder to keep people's attention. It's much easier to sit there and listen to it in the background and check your phone and check your emails, and nobody can really tell what you're doing. So that's kind of a challenge there. Did it work? I think it was not great, but it was as good as we could do, and we got things done. So that's kind of the pros and the cons. Would I much rather see it in person? Absolutely.
Thanks, Kaki. So Connie, I'm gonna come back to you. I'm sure that you shared some of the same challenges and benefits. I'm interested to know if your issues mobilization committee had maybe different issues that were more related either to budgets or to COVID or to local response to some of the things that were going on. Did you have pretty much the same type of issues that you did, say, in 2019, or was it a host of different issues?
Well, I think that they were pretty much the same type of issues. I mean, a lot of them were put on hold because of COVID, but we pretty much were presented with things that we normally are.
Okay. Thank you, Connie. So, Brandy, obviously we're in an election year. We got a presidential race and congressional representatives and all. We've got a senator on the ballot, and then, of course, all of our state and local elections. Tell me, and you alluded a little bit to this a while ago, how did it impact the engagement? And I'd love to hear you tell us more about what you're doing to teach your grassroots members to get out there and make those contacts, and maybe what challenges, or if there are any benefits to the virtual contact. Brandy?
Sure, thank you.
We're freezing up here.
Oh, sorry.
Hopefully everybody can still see and hear me. I tried to have a strong internet connection, but everybody's at home online teaching kids and everything. I'm sure the broadband is having some challenges.
We'll put that down as a challenge for sure.
So as far as the political engagement, you know, I think it really did, and getting through the primaries especially, this really did put your organization, our organization, as the Texas Realtors in a very good position, because we have not only the fundraising side, but we also have the grassroots side. And I think that a lot of people just don't realize how impactful and important that the Realtor Party is. You know, candidate fundraising has been down across the board. And so that means that the financial support from TREAPAC is so important, especially now more than ever. But of course, that's only one piece of the puzzle. The grassroots support from the Realtors is key. You know, one of the examples that we had with political engagement was a House race in House District 60. It was an open seat. It was a huge rural district. It runs from Granbury down to Brownwood, up to Mineral Wells, and almost out to Abilene. TREAPAC took a position on a candidate based on the local recommendation from 2 different boards. And the PIC approved the local board's recommendation for an opportunity race. And the local members jumped right in. So when we do our opportunity races, that they have different levels that we can engage in. And it allows for that get out the vote component for us to be still supporting and ensuring that we are spreading the word about TREAPAC supported candidate, and especially for that race. Everybody was incredibly engaged and excited about it. And what it does is now that candidate will always remember the support that he got from Texas Realtors.
Thank you, Brandy. Tony, I'm gonna wrap up my questions to you with you, and then we'll take some of the students' questions. So events were kind of the cornerstone of the PAC, and you all had to kind of switch from in-person events to a time when I know you were challenged with whether to have events at all, and then on into virtual. Can you talk about that evolution, Tony?
Sure, and I was going to try not to say it, but I say it every time, and Brandy beat me to it. Thank you, Brandy, because I've been saying a lot. Now more than ever, we need your TREAPAC investment. Now more than ever. So, and we all get that, but absolutely, Cindy, we struggled, honestly. You know, all of us as realtors we're social people. We like to hug and interact and meet with people, and you know, we're community leaders, and we like to get involved in our communities and get engaged. We're, you know, the baseball coaches, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So this did present quite a few challenges, because at first, after we kind of checked with our boots on the ground, you know, our whole state was at different stages of this. And so there were many places in our state that didn't even want to hear about investing or giving money or doing anything. They were just trying to survive. there were some places in our state and that were not as impacted by what we were all going through. So we had to kind of be sensitive to all of that. And we went back to the people just like we always do in our members, and we let them try to do what was best for their specific areas. And what that led to is we did have a few in-person events. Then as things kind of got crazier, we had to shift gears and move to a lot of virtual events. The promise of that is that we're prepared to do that in the future. The hard part was trying to do that all for the first time, kind of on the fly, if you will. And we still have a lot of events going on. I know one week, Cindy, you and I, we drank wine with the great folks of Sabor, I think. And then 2 days later, we were painting, or I was painting and drinking wine with the Longview Association of Realtors. So it wasn't quite as awesome to be able to give people a hug and see people's faces in person, but we adapted. And that's what we do as Realtors all the time. We're resilient. We're problem solvers, and that's kind of what we've done. So right now we have a lot of online auctions going on. A lot of our boards have wanted people from across the state to know what's going on. If y'all tuned into the conference, Cindy and I got to hang out with Sinbad, and we had our biggest statewide auction that we've ever had, raising almost $105,000. With that, we did a virtual 5K that I think will be an awesome event that will grow, a statewide event that'll grow. And that was kind of fun because we had some serious runners and some serious 5Kers, and we had some that did the virtual 5K by sipping on a glass of wine by the swimming pool. So it was kind of something for everyone. But that's what we're still working on. We obviously, I think Khaki said it, we'd love to get back face to face. We have missed that social aspect of I know in real estate, as I train our realtors, one of the biggest things we always say as realtors, to close the deal, we got to get face to face, or to get the deal going. You're going to get a phone call or a sign call or a whatever, and the goal of that call is to get face to face so that you can work with your folks, so that they'll build a rapport with you and get to know you and get to know what you're about and start to learn to trust you. So we hope we get back to face, but in the meantime, we've got a great group of folks that we're working virtually from. I'm laughing a little bit at Khaki saying that all of us were baptized by fire on these Zoom meetings. And Khaki, I know you were talking about having to kind of string them out a little bit. So the first Zoom meeting with our trustees, I take a look at the chat going on, and then I start looking at the pictures, and all of a sudden somebody's got their dog in their lap. And then it's like a bunch of little kids almost, where somebody had their dog, and then somebody else goes, "Hey, I've got a dog. Oh, look at my cat." Before you knew, we had 60 people with pets in their laps, kind of trying to show us virtually what was going on in their world. Anyway, I kind of got off track, but we're doing our best, and that's kind of how we got to adapt. Now more than ever, though, Brandy.
Thank you, Tony. So I have a few more questions, but I don't want us to run long, and I want to make sure and get the questions in. They're coming in on the chat. There was a great question Janet Freeman asked regarding opportunity races. What do you consider an opportunity race? And Janet, if you want to ask that question, and I'd love to hear Brandy maybe field that one. Brandon already did a great answer in the chat, but Brandy, I'd love for you to add to that on the opportunity race.
Sure. And I have to say, all the different acronyms, I love the fact that they had that page in y'all's packet today with all of the different things that you'll hear. But yeah, so opportunity races are when we've identified a particular candidate that needs some additional support, needs some additional help to ensure that the person that we've supported that is aligned with our issues as Texas Realtors can be successful in winning that race. And then there are different levels, and that is something that your political involvement committee looks at.
Courtney Rosen has a question asking if there are any coordinated efforts to address tenants' rights movement and the series of legal proposals that are impinging on those property rights. And I know the National Association of Realtors and Texas Realtors has been kind of all over that. Brandy, do you have anything to add, or shall we ask maybe Julia?
I guess the only thing it's kind of a broad thing. So I don't know if that's related to the recent eviction moratorium that's come through recently with the CDC. And oddly enough, I was on a other virtual meeting where our NAR representative was there giving some additional information. And so I know that there's a coordinated effort, and the three-way agreement works very, very well as it impacts the local, the state, and the federal components as it relates to anything impacting private property rights. And there is definitely some concern related to not just thinking about the tenant side, but also thinking about the mom and pops out there that are being impacted by not being able to have that rent covered. So the important thing that they addressed was to ensure that there are some funds available to help assist those tenants in making those payments. And I don't know if that answered your question, but that's the information that I have on it.
Courtney, did you want to clarify anything on the question?
I think in addition to like the COVID, post-COVID kind of tenant rights and the can you be evicted and who's paying the rent question, it started before that. And so I work as a property manager, and in different states now they can't use credit scores or they can't run a background check. There are, in California, they can't do a property review. They can't walk into the property to see the condition while the tenants are living there. It's an impingement on personal rights. There are a lot of different movements even before COVID that are coming up, and they're still going through. And when I talk to people in our local area, there's some organizations that are kind of pushing it through our city council. And I was thinking about even before the can't pay rent question, if there's some other movements on how to address issues. Like there's San Antonio Express News a couple of years ago did a whole eviction and San Antonio Housing Authority issue series coming up. And I think these tenant rights movements are going across the United States, which is great because some tenants got the short end of the stick, but at the same time, the proposals that are coming out of them, I think will be really harmful. And they're not slowing down during COVID. And I was wondering if there's any organization around some of these other issues past like who's paying the rent right now because it's COVID.
Thanks for that question, Courtney. And what I'm going to do right now, because I'm unless there's more time in the day than they've budgeted us, we're just about out of time. But your question poses, I mean, this is a great question to end with because, Connie, I may pitch it to you just for a second, just because, so you have this issue. If it's a local issue, what's the next thing you do as a leader? And generally that's call your local association if you have a GAD and a local process. And then usually, or if you don't, call your Texas association. And usually the next thing that happens is there's a collaboration between those two, and that what they might come back to you and say, Courtney, is we need to get in touch with Connie, the chair, the 2021 chair of issues mobilization, and talk to them if it's a local issue. Or maybe they say, get with Julia because Julia's already done some research on that. And so each individual thing. And then I think if you all don't remember anything else after you leave today, it's that you have literally an army of professionals whose career is centered around the governmental affairs process, and that's your staff at Texas Realtors. And you may be in a large enough association where you have some world-class staff at the local level too, but it's always a great idea as a member leader to incorporate in the Texas Realtors resources that you pay for, you assemble, you vote for. They're your people, and they're in those places, and so it's a great opportunity to do that. We are out of time, I think. Jamie, does anybody on the panel have anything you'd like to wrap up with that we completely missed, or any of the staff that you know, particularly you, Jamie, there was something you really wanted to get out of this and it didn't come in? Can we do, anybody?
Well, this is Connie. I just want to say that we had a lot of issues on the table that were postponed due to COVID. I didn't totally understand your question earlier, and I apologize for that. But we did have some successes that came out of our meetings this year. And we just want people to know that we're out there to help you solve problems that you may see that deal with private property rights. And that's why we want to carry this marketing plan out and let it get out to the local associations and the regions so they know they have someone that can help them. And like you said, if they think they have a problem, call one of us on the committee. Probably we will say, you know, call the staff at TR and they will give you some guidelines. They will investigate it. Then we will hold a meeting and decide if it's something that we can get involved in or not. But we're more than happy to hear everything that you think is an issue. And so please don't hesitate to contact us.
And Courtney, my prediction is that some of the meat and potatoes question that was in your question, there may be some Q&As already in our website that would address some of that. And if there is not, I know that our governmental affairs staff is always happy to tell you what they know so far. And your question covered a lot of some of them national, state, and local, but we have a lane for all of that. So I just want to wrap it up by thanking you all for, especially the panel members. These people worked their hearts out. And while they were juggling all of the same stresses that you all were, and I'm going to say that in addition to their hard work and they're giving us their time today, every one of these people was extremely aware that you as members, whether you're a member at large or a local leader or whatever level of leadership you were within our association, you were the face of that association. You were the ones looking into the eyes of those clients saying, what are we going to do next? And I will just say that you all did a beautiful job of it. And the fact that you made time to take your TRLP to really dig down and learn, especially about leadership in this association at a time when leadership, I know from time to time, didn't look as fun as it was. You all are the cream of the crop. Thank you for doing that. And just know that leadership is fun even in the worst of times, because you are never alone. In this organization, you are never alone in that leadership journey. And the people on this panel today had their sleeves up and they were ready to go, and they had you at their heart at every minute. And if you go into your leadership journey with that same mindset, you will be fantastic leaders. And I, for one, who will be a past leader very soon, am grateful and proud and happy that our association is going to be in such great hands. Thank you very much, Jamie. I'm going to hand it back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. We really appreciate you and all the other chairs taking the time today to be here on this call. We know it's been a busy time, so we do appreciate that. And so I'm going to turn this over to Trey Bates, our Vice President of Governmental Affairs, and he'll take it from here.
Well, I just wanted to kind of try to connect the dots with everybody on what all we've been up to. I'm hoping you can see my screen share coming up. I assume you can. And basically, you had a super all-star team of governmental affairs and volunteer staff. And I tell you what, we've got a lot going on in this department. And as you can tell through the presentations today, that there are many angles we work. And this screen share I wanted to share with you, Jamie Sims helped put this together with the Marcom team. And it's a great way to demonstrate how this is an ongoing cycle. There's never an ending and there's never a beginning. It just keeps going. And it just depends on where you jump in the process. And it talks to everything that we've basically covered today: public policy, issues mobilization, our field rep teams and how they tie in with all of these conversations, our campaign team and TREAPAC and our advocacy communications, and everything we're doing along this process stream, and how we get our volunteers engaged and how your staff engages with the volunteers and through this process. So I think this is a great example of how we utilize all the tools that you give your government affairs team here, and how we can advocate on your behalf and how you can advocate for yourselves as well when you get engaged. And as TRLP graduates, hopefully soon, that's what we expect and hope for your involvement. And so just know that you're welcome to be a part of this process at any time. We want your involvement. We need your involvement locally. We need your involvement at the state level and even at the national level. We really think this is a great way for realtors to express their interest in their industry and to advocate for themselves, their customers and their clients, and all property owners across this great state of Texas. And I wanted to just kind of walk you through that just briefly, just to show how where we are and how we connect all the dots with this entire process. So right now, we've done interviews, we've done disbursements, we're continuing to do some disbursements now. We're engaging in these campaigns, which is the bottom right hand side of that form. And we're promoting these candidates that we're all supporting. And right now, early voting is starting for one of the races, a Senate race. It's a special election. And we're working on that. And then, as you well know, November, we have an election. And it's a presidential election. It's a big deal. So there's a lot going on. We have a state Senate race. We have, a state Congress. We have a Senate race with John Cornyn that we're supporting. And then we have a number of other races all throughout the ballot. And the crazy thing about what COVID did to us is it gave us a long ballot this election cycle, because as you well know, many of your local races are now going to be held in November. So we not only have the normal races that would occur, but we also have many local races. We have a lot of judicial races. And the other funky thing about this year is we have no straight ticket voting, and you have to individually go down along every race in your ballot. So it could be multiple pages. So all I ask is that you have patience and take your voter guide that Brandon talked about with Texas Realtor Support. And don't forget those realtor supported candidates, and don't forget to go all the way through your ballot supporting all of them, because we need them, because they understand our issues like Leslie talked about. And that's why we elect them, because they help us with our issues. And Julia and her team make sure that we communicate our issues and our public policy positions. And that's how it all kind of connects and ties together. And then obviously, if you have any questions, feel free to contact any one of us, because we're always happy to answer questions and help you through any thing you need locally at the state level, or even we can assist you at the national level. I want to leave my comments at that and leave a little extra time for any questions or anything that you have about where we're headed and the information you learned today, and anything that might still have a gap of knowledge that you want to ask us about. We're all here to help you. So are there any questions out there? You're welcome to jump in. I don't see anything in the chat other than some people wanting to get a screenshot for their social media post, I assume. But again, I just want to say thank you to everybody for being a part of this module. We really appreciate the time that you spent to be a part of this. And it's been a great opportunity for our team to talk about what we love doing every day. And just thank you for being involved as realtors. Jamie, do you have anything else to cover before we close?
Nothing much, but to reiterate, Jamie Lee, again, our Director of Advocacy Communications, you all met a little earlier today. She would love to take a screenshot of everyone and to give you guys fair warning, so you can also smile at the camera and not be in the middle of talking, or perhaps, so that we can maybe tweet this out and also share with your local local associations as well. So it's the up and coming next TRLP class and our up and coming leaders. So Jamie Lee, let me know when you're ready to take that, so we don't have everyone in suspense for too long.
Well, I think if you can put it in Brady Bunch mode, we can go from there. There's 62 people on here. So generally, if we were at the Capitol in the giant auditorium, I'd get a big photo. So I want to do similar to just really love on everyone and thank you for being here. Jamie Sims, let me know because I've got ready when you are.
Yeah, I'm laughing at Elisa.
There are 3 screens that I need to take. So everyone put your cats and dogs down for just a second. Give me just 1 second. I love the laughing.
I guess I'm the only one that's not.
One.
All right.
You know, that's the world we're in, right?
To be clear.
It should be in gallery mode now. So if everyone has all their preferred virtual backgrounds and all of that in place, Jamie Lee, you good to go?
I am on it.
Well, while she's doing that, I just want to say thank you to everybody for being here. Thank you to all the government affairs staff for all your great preparation and time for your presentations. And thank you to all of our government affairs chairs and leadership and Cindy Bulla for being here today to help us with sharing all the things that we do. And Tony Lloyd, thank you for everything you're doing. Really appreciate your leadership this year. It's been an interesting year, but you're still just knocking it out of the park. Thank you for all you're doing, Tony. How you doing, Jamie?
I'm done. Thank you so much. What a great assortment of perspectives for those of you in your cars, those of you in your homes. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Well, Trey, if you don't mind if I can just leave us with one final thing. I think some people are ready to wrap up a little early, but we do have our orientation coming up this fall. It will be occurring at the end of October. Your AEs will be getting more information about that, but details are pending, but we do want everyone here to save the date for you to participate in that, because it is going to be a virtual orientation, as is the theme of this year. So that's going to be October 27th and 28th and November 4th and 5th. So save the date for that. We'd love to see you all there to learn some more about governmental affairs and how we can help you in your industry and help you as staff. But with that, I think we're wrapped up, but I'll throw it back to Trey just in case.
Thank you, Jamie. And Jamie Lee just reminded me we may be sending out a course evaluation. So if you don't mind filling that out for us, we'd appreciate that. And again, thank you for everything that you're doing. So excited for y'all on your march forward to TRLP graduation. And thank you for being a part of our GA module. And good luck to everybody for the rest of this year. Thanks for everything you're doing. Bye, y'all.